Hi, I'm Peter Downhauer with Community Solutions Initiative. Today I'm going to show you how to build a generator harness which connects our PM102 motor to our charging system. The PM102 motor is the generator that's attached to the light cycle. Here's an overview of the components that go into the generator harness. We've got the female AML connector, we've got the heavy duty 90-degree female disconnects, a 10 amp fuse, a diode, a flag connector, a ring connector, and our screws that we actually connect that to the generator. We also have a support piece of 14x2 wire along with a 1.5 to about 2 foot long 14x2 wire. In the center of our 14x2 wire we need about a 2-inch split. I'll just use my utility knife to split that. Next we want to locate the positive side of the wire and actually clip that off. With the metal backing of the diode facing you, we need to bend the terminals prior to soldering it onto the wire. On the right side, we'll bend it away and a little bit lower. And this needs to be a big enough bend to hold a 14x2 or 14 gauge wire. And on the left side, you need to bend it towards you and a little bit higher. Like so. Now we can solder this onto the wire. Now we need to strip about 1/8 of an inch off the positive side of the wire. I put the negative side of the wire on the top, and then on the right hand side I'll take the 1/8 of an inch off. Now with the piece of wire that was snipped out earlier, I'll take the 1/8 of an inch off one end, and on the other end about a 1/2 inch. Alright, I've got the length of the 14x2 wire and the diode set up in a pair of helping hands, and orientation is everything on this. So you notice that this is the negative wire on the top and the right hand side of the positive wire on the bottom. The diode, with the metal backing facing you still, has its left hand side terminal hooked over that open wire. And I've just used my needle nose pliers to kind of get it started and clamp it in place. And I'm going to come back now and put some solder on there. Now I've rearranged the wire. I've flipped over the diode, so now you can see the front side of the diode, and the other hook is now open for you to see as well. I've taken the excess wire, I'll place it in that extra hook and just kind of clamp it around there a little bit. Hold it in place, and I can also use the helping hands to assist in that. And then I'll solder this in place as well. Now on the other end of the extra piece of wire I have stripped off about 1/2 of an inch, I'm going to just twist it up a little bit. I'll take one of the heavy duty disconnects and push it in there, and make sure you push it in as far as you can. Insulation should go in there, and use our simple crimper to attach that on there. With this type of crimper, you may need to go over it a couple of times. And you also want to make sure it's facing roughly upwards. After we've gotten the first disconnect on, we want to just make sure that our proportions are correct. I'll place the other disconnect next to it and line up the wire so I can get a sense of how far that wire is going to go into the disconnect. And once I'm satisfied where it's at, I can strip that wire and actually attach the disconnect. If I need to, I can strip back or split the wire a bit further to move this disconnect further out, and otherwise you may need to use a different jumper wire if this wire is too far away. So I can see here that I need about a 1/4 of an inch off this extra wire. That'll strip off. Put this in the other disconnect. Crimp it on. And we can line it up again. It's right next to the other one, so that's good. Now that we've got the disconnects and the diode in place, we can stabilize everything. I'll take the fuse, put it in our disconnects. That'll help keep it in place. There we go. Using zip ties and a piece of support wire, we're going to attach this from one end to the other, and this will hopefully take a little bit of the tension if it gets a shock. First one's always the hardest. Put one on each side of the fuse. I'm not going to worry too much about tightening up too much. And one on each side of the diode. And I can come back and tighten those up and trim off the excess zip tie. And it's optional if you want to put more zip ties on there to do so. 4 would be about the minimum. Now let's do our connections at the ends. As you can see on the fuse end of the generator harness, I've attached a female AML connector, and on the diode end, I'm going to strip off both wires by about a half an inch. So on the diode end of the wire, I'll put a flag terminal on the positive wire. Just twist it up so it can go in the insulation just fine. And again, I'll use my simple crimper. And go over it a couple of times just to make sure you get that crimp in there. Good. And on the negative wire, I'll put a ring terminal. Again, just twist up the wire so it goes in the insulation. And just a little bit of the tug will ensure that you've got it on there good. The generator harness is complete, and along with the machine screw, star washers, and a Nylox nut, we'll be able to attach this to the generator.